If you were here yesterday, you know I throw a couple of curveballs at you, but I'm not gonna relent today. So let's get started. Thank you so very much for your presentations up to now. One of the interesting things we picked up yesterday as well is soil health is becoming far more and more important, a key focus on ensuring soil health is in place. But I've heard a number of ideas, pollinators, soil health, crop rotation. Firstly, what do you think are the most significant trends that you pick up in the market? And is there a beneficial correlation between these trends you're picking up? Who wants to take it first?
Yeah, I think we're very much at the infancy stage of understanding soil health. We're working extensively with a number of universities, Nature Conservancy and others around the world. Wageningen University is starting to get well into that. I think the younger generation of farmers and environmentalists coming through from these universities are far much more au fait with soil health than guys like myself of 60 odd years of age. But we're quick learners, and I think we realise the importance of getting to grips with this whole area for food production going forward.
Yeah, with the change in Brexit, we're having new farming policies in the UK. So the old system in the EU, you had a direct payment every year. That's being phased out in the UK until 2027, when there won't be any direct payments at all. But one of the things they have already announced is a soil sustainability initiative. So you will be paid a certain amount of money to improve your soil. So they'll monitor it from day one, and then as you develop, you get paid to improve that soil. And it's something that Leaf has been doing for 30 years of actually looking at. That's the most important. And in some ways, I suppose it's the element that we have. That and water we have the most control over. We don't have so much control over the sun, but we certainly have a bit more control over our soil.
It was fascinating, Albert's presentation yesterday. He spoke about the effectiveness of different types of crop rotation strategies and what you need to plant in order to optimize your soil health. Really interesting. I would recommend those of you that missed the presentation, please follow it online. It might be hugely beneficial for your farming practices as well. We talk, yes, please, Peter.
Kan ek bylas?
Of course.
May I answer in Afrikaans?
You are welcome to. That's why we actually pay a number of translation services at the back, and they're going to feel hugely disappointed if they can't do their job. So please fire away.
Ja, raak aan die volhoubaarheid en om na die grond te kyk en om dit te verbeter. Kyk, dit hang nou af waar jy is in die land en hoe jou produksiesisteem is. Maar binne in Suid-Afrika baie groot fokus veral in die kleingraanbedryf en in jou rygewasbedryf om veral saam met jou grondverbeter stelsel verhoog ook jou koolstof, want die bakterieë en al die grondorganismes, alles is maar lewe is koolstof. So saam met dit bou jou koolstof op. So die einddoelwit of die maatstaf om dit te meet is maar koolstof. Maar ja, daar's maar 3 aspekte van dit is. Nommer 1 is minimum bewerking. As ons die grond werk en roer, ons breek al daardie strukture wat daardie organismes geskep het, breek ons op. So dit is een manier wat ons agteruit boer met die grond. En verder is dit maar net 'n goeie wisselbousisteem en dan om altyd 'n bedekking oor jou grond te hê, soos Bruce ook genoem het, daar waar die grond so warm is dat jy jou hand brand. As jy gewas oor die grond het, dan raak jou grond ook nie so warm en dis net 'n baie beter. Die einddoel is om die beste huisvesting vir jou grondorganismes te skep.
So anything from your end, or you're going to skip on this one?
Well, I think the more that we treat better the soil and we make those best practices, and today we have more and more ways of visibility to that, from sensors that we're putting in the ground, from remote sensing that we're collecting, from the sampling that we're doing and collecting that data, it'll improve those best practices, and hopefully we can generate this to every hectare.
And the real message is let's start collecting the data, because the more data we can collect, even in South Africa, the better solutions we can project into the future. I think that's the real message for now, right now. Thank you so much. So I've got a question. If all of your wonderful technologies, from drones and less fertilizer and more efficient cultivars and pollinators and soil health come into being, you're all projecting increased capacity. All right. So how about increased demand? because although there might be larger population growth, we might not necessarily have people that opt to go the potato route. So Cedric, I'm going to start with you. Is there a way we can use big data, or what are the trends available where we can increase the demand in the market for potatoes?
I think we can understand what the shopper wants using that technology. I think we have to be a little bit. I mean, the technology is great, and it's it will transform the way we do produce, and I think it's a good way of enthusing people to come into agriculture as well. But I think we do need to be a bit careful how we portray that technology to the consumer. We've had it perhaps with GMs back 20, 30 years ago, the way it was portrayed, and it became sort of known as Frankenstein food, and people were, oh no, we don't want this. So we need to be portraying potatoes, other food as being natural, healthy, good for you, and part of a planned diet. At the moment, or for a lot of people, for a lot of the time, it's also about good value as well. So potatoes are good value. So I think we do need to concentrate, and I suppose it's, as farmers, we can get very caught up in that production bit, but as part of that supply chain, it needs to be enthusing people about the naturalness of potatoes as well, because that's what sort of sells. People like to, have pictures of sort of bucolic, lovely countryside, but then if you are enthusing people are excited about technology as well. Just mash those two together.
That advertisement you've shown about Spain, and these are the interesting things that you can market a potato based on the minerals and based on its beneficial qualities. Any quick value proposition that you can highlight for a potato? Anyone? Just a brief value proposition. Why would someone choose a potato rather than any other crop to consume?
I think there's a cultural dynamic here. When you go to the Anglophile countries, maybe of British extract or influence, you find a lot of potatoes there. So you go up the eastern seaboard of Africa into some of the Middle Eastern countries, you see a lot of potato consumption. Ironically, you go across to West Africa, you see a lot more rice and other things being consumed. So I think there's a whole education job here. To be fair, some of the efficiencies I've heard today about potatoes takes me back a few years in terms of my agronomic knowledge. It's such an efficient crop. And I think we're not really getting that message across to authorities around the world. I mean, we have 2 delegations come to visit us with huge landmass. If they fully understand the opportunity with potatoes, you could see a lot of technology being adopted and opportunities for seed multipliers and others in these countries. So I think we've got to get better at how we get the knowledge to those audiences, if you like. Farmers are great at growing. Where we sometimes fall short is how we market what we do. And that's when you mentioned Frankenstein foods and whatever else. You make a slip in front of the consumer and they read the wrong thing into what you're trying to do with all the good intent. So I think there's education, there's spreading the knowledge, and it's really getting across to these people, wow, what a chance you've got.
I always like to think if you found the potato in Peru today, it would be marketed as the most ultimate superfood in terms of its nutrition, its potential, and I think the humble potato, I mean, it's nice, it's a humble potato, but in some ways it has to be the noble potato rather than the humble potato.
So, talking about Peru, 200 different cultivars they have, huge amount of potatoes. My question is, with all of these new variants of potatoes, how does it impact the taste of the potato? Is there a discernible difference in the taste from a marketing perspective? I don't know.
Well, Israel
can you put any light on that?
Fantastic potatoes.
Well, we grow about 15,000 hectares of potatoes twice a year. The winter goes to Israel, to Europe. We have several kinds that we get mainly from Holland and Scotland, so those are the potatoes. I wonder why we don't get from South Africa, so this is an opportunity for the growers as well. Yeah, we consume more and more potatoes. It's more and more, I think the more it's shown to be as a food, the demand is growing. We talked about the growing population. The demand for food is growing. the more we brand potato as that food, the more we will get potatoes out there. And like I said before, it's the only potential to grow because the other crops aren't growing that much.
So I've got a weird angle, really a weird question, but you can expect that from me. I don't know if the guys at the back can just quickly do a Google on a cultured meat and a bioreactor on it. So by 2050, some people believe that we will be growing meat in bioreactors and have structures and then feed stocks to feed into it. You've told me that proteins, the proteins from potatoes are really, really good. Do you think there's a possibility of the potatoes from proteins being used as a feedstock in cultured meat? Do you think that's a possibility? What do you think? Specifically, if we have those potatoes on Mars and we now need to get some meat going on Mars as well. Give me some forecasts, 20, 30 years into the future, of some of the other uses of proteins from potatoes, and is that possibly one of them?
I think some of those proteins that they're taking out of potatoes now, they're just as good as dairy proteins. So they're high quality, so you could have them if you're dairy intolerant, you could also have them. So I think we've got a vision of having, so in a few years' time you can have fish and chips made out of potatoes. Everything made out of potatoes. The chips made out of potatoes and the fish and the beef.
So you're telling me that some of the potato farmers are going to have bioreactors, and if all of the technical challenges are going to be solved, and it's really interesting, if you log onto the internet and you look at bioreactors of cultured meat, there's close to about 300 companies that are now starting off, but it's not going to be an easy journey. I mean, the challenge, the cost challenge specifically, so you can get it done. Right now you can buy a chicken in Singapore that has been grown in a bioreactor, far healthier and far more environmentally friendly than anywhere else, but it costs you a fortune. And the question is, can we do it at the same rate? So you can see on the screen how you can grow cultured meat. The problem is the mass scale manufacturing of it. Are you telling me that in the not too distant future, your potato farmers are going to have a bioreactor and they're going to be growing the meat from some of the potato protein from it? Is that one of your projections?
Well, I mean, you look back at ICI's history and they produced corn, which was, if you like, an alternative meat source, and that was 20 years ago. But there was a lot of education went into educating the consumer, and that's the biggest hurdle, if you like. I mean, we know I can tell you how fickle consumers are in Switzerland and the UK. If they see the slightest blemish on a potato, it's left on the shelf, even though it's perfectly healthful or whatever else. So consumers are fickle. They're extremely nervous of technology. I don't know what's happened in the way we educate for the last number of years, but they're far more comfortable with culture, languages, literature than they are with science. And I think unless we get people to understand the science of what we're doing, bringing technologies like this to the marketplace at scale is going to be quite a challenge. So we need the huge multinational companies, probably including ourselves and others, to be able to reach out with the people who can articulate the message in the right way to these audiences. So people like yourself who know how to communicate with consumers and others, you'd be a great platform. You put a scientist in front of a consumer, they get into deep science and the consumer's lost in seconds. So it's horses for courses. Get the education right, then some of this technology comes to the fore.
I think we do have to be very careful about who's going to control this supply of alternative meat. I mean, some people are saying that, you can have all your food cultured, so you wouldn't even need to have crops. So what do you do with the farmland then? The farmers have got a very important role in managing the environment of the farm as well. And then if you've got food in the hands of one or two big companies, that's the danger. I mean, if it's like big tech, you've got that in the hands of one or two people. If you had a Zuckerberg who's controlling most of the world's food supply, that could be very dangerous, and from an environmental point of view as well.
Any final comments, Sim?
Yes, what I see in the future is that digital printer in every kitchen with that powder from potato and generating any food that you want. Just choose it.
Different angle there, huh? Different angle. Potato protein is a market.
That's my next startup.
Gotcha. Peter, final comments from you. Nothing on your end, right? You're playing safe on this one. It's far better to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get some questions from the audience. Please just raise your hand. I've got one or two zingers still left in my armory, but I want to leave it till later. Any comments, questions from the audience, please? Right over here. Thank you so much. Just state your name and then your question.
Okay. André Labskagni. So my question is for Cedric, and I think it's for Peter as well. We've seen the decline in the consumption of potatoes with COVID, and you mentioned it was due to the fact that restaurants are closed. So we all see, and Peter must correct me here, that we believe there will be other pandemics coming. And how do we keep that demand for potatoes alive when we're under lockdown? Is there another option to not see the decline once we get into a lockdown situation again?
Well, I think what we saw, particularly in Europe, so there was a big drop in food service in restaurants, but actually you saw people buying potatoes and chips and things, frozen chips, for home consumption. And I think that was quite good because people got to cook potatoes again. So there is that sort of benefit. We have seen that now dropping away again, and you've seen people with restaurants. But as I say, I mean, if restaurants are open, then potatoes and chips they're pretty. The penetration in terms of most restaurants with using them is enormous. So they are pretty resilient, and people can sort of grade down. So people, if they haven't got the money, they stop going to the posh restaurants. They go to a medium one or a quick service restaurant. So they are pretty resilient from that point of view. I mean, I don't know about pandemics. You know, it's a daft thing to say, but it's been about 100 years since we had a really big pandemic. But I suppose there is more opportunity or more potential for more pandemics, the way we move around the world and way diseases around the world. So, and hopefully we will be better prepared for the next one, and we will have learned something from this one.
Yeah, I was amazed actually. The farmers didn't stop. I mean, the whole of British society came to a standstill as people worked from homes, offices were emptied, and all this sort of thing. But farmers did not stop. It was amazing. They pushed through the whole pandemic, producing whatever they need to produce. And to be honest, I don't think farmers around the world got anything like the credit for the work they did to keep nations fed during a horrific 2-year period. You guys are amazing. Absolutely.
Any other questions from the floor? Very quiet bunch we have here today. So we spoke a lot about the different types of strategies. Pollinators, crop rotation, biologics, more accurate farming techniques, different cultivars, genetic modification. If each one of you would say, what are the top 3 things that'll be the most important for the producers over the next 3 years to concentrate on, to increase their yield, what will it be? So the top 3 things, from all of the things we discussed, I think we discussed about 12 different types of strategies and technologies and how things are put in place. But for the producer right now, over the next 3 years, what should be the top 3 things on their list in order to prepare them for a more prosperous future? What would you say those top 3 things are? Start with you, Peter.
I'll switch over to English. For me, I would say just start partaking in the adoption of technology. So we can...
So which ones?
Collecting data.
Collecting data.
Starting digitalizing your farm, getting that, how can you say, your map of your farm, and just being more adaptive to precision farming strategies. I know some of the technologies might be expensive, but just getting on board, because the later you start, the more data you miss.
So more data, start with precision farming. What's the third thing?
And then, start, we've got there's a lot of people you can collaborate with, but collaborating with the correct persons to utilize that data and apply it on your farm. And like you say, being as precise as possible.
So start sharing. So sharing is caring, right? So you want to make sure you collect the data, start precision farming, and start sharing it so that the knowledge can be expanded and that the next generation of technologies can be worked on. Get the big data in play so that you can have more accurate, more accurate data and patterns in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So those are the top three. Bruce, can I ask you, what are the top three that you would think of?
Yeah, building on the digital and then looking at integrated crop solutions. I think the time has come where we have to look at conventional CP technologies going forward, but integrate biocontrols and biostimulants within the same cropping program. And that's what we're doing now in our development work, and we're doing in our field trials evaluations. How do we create an integrated cropping program which has all the appropriate solutions to optimize yield going forward? Second, and equally important, is soil health. We have to get a handle on what's going on in our soils, and we don't have that yet pretty much universally. And then application technology. It's no use spending huge amounts of money and we're not getting the solutions in the right place at the right time in the right quantity. So let's help farmers improve their application techniques for the future.
Very, very important. Biologics, soil health, and then the correct applications for the right requirement for the farmer. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think the most immediate thing for this season and into the next is cost management. You see fertilizer prices going up 2 or 3 times, energy 4, 5, 6 times in parts of Europe, higher fuel costs and all those sort of things. And I think that can then drive other technological change as well. So, the very efficient use of resources, which then spills over into addressing climate change. And I suppose also that third one of, we're all in this together, and so farmers are only there because of the consumer. I know farmers often say, we're without us you won't be fed, but that's right. But also, we as farmers are not there if there's not the consumers there. So I think that's probably in that longer term, just more consumer integration and knowledge and working with consumers.
So cost management, but also our ability to make sure our products are easily accessible on the market using digital platforms to sell them, for example. As we've seen, 1 or 2 of the exhibitors here today are showing, use those digital platforms to distribute your products through the value chain. So cost management in terms of input costs, but also reducing your value chain costs. Any third idea you want to throw in?
I say the sort of climate change.
Okay.
But all these things are related.
Yeah.
It's so better use of resources is better cost management, and better for the environment and everything.
So better focus on water management, and so forth. Thank you so much. That's really, really insightful. Very interesting, the diverse opinions, and you'll have to make up your own minds if you're going to embed all of those ideas or use the top 3. Sim, you've got the last opportunity.
I say data.
Yeah,
but to help that, we need connectivity, 5G on every hectare. Imagine the data collected, analyzed in the cloud, going right back to that tractor, to that app, to that farmer, to the agri-retailer, in a much faster cycle.
How long do you think by collecting data can a farmer reap the benefits of that data? What's the time horizon?
Immediately.
You think
any
immediately?
Data you collect, you can get immediate insight on that. And the more, the merrier.
And the more data, that will allow you to reduce your costs on spraying?
And any kind of the things that we spoke about today.
Okay.
And the last is sustainability. We spoke about it so much. I think we're all trying to harness those things, and we need to do more and faster.
Thank you. There you have it, 3, 4 experts with different opinions. I hope that you can extract the wisdom from those comments. Any other questions from the floor? Yes, Willie.
Can't let you go without doing it. Okay, so standing in a farmer's shoes, listening to significant conversations happening. We're busy in the field, we're busy working, we're busy running around trying to catch up just with what's happening in nature. How's industry And it's not as a beggar or anything like that. How's the industry going to help us to bring that information onto the farm while we're busy running with the business that we need to operate on?
Whoa, that's a tough one. I'm glad I don't have to answer that. Please, who's going to take it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an obligation on big national and global companies to put our money where our mouth is and get the knowledge out there. We've empowered and equipped our Syngenta experts with a lot of very bright, very capable people in all fields of science and environmental management. And we need to get that knowledge through to our agronomists who are working with agents and directly with farmers, and provide you with that information to make the right decisions on your farm. And if we fail to deliver that, just pick up the phone. We have Christian here, head of marketing, we have head of sales here. If you're not getting what you expect from Syngenta, pick the phone up. Even if it's to me in Basel, no problem.
Yeah, it's definitely, with everything we do, we keep the industry in mind, and we want a sustainable farming community, and the client we serve today, we want to serve him tomorrow, also ensure that he prospers and we prosper with that farmer. So going through the correct channel always is important, because it's a lot of farm information if you tackle every farmer one by one. So bringing in like Potato SA and other role players into this information sharing, would I say, overload, and getting the tools available, getting the adoption at the higher end, and having that being, how can you say, distributed downwards to the farmer. Just getting at the start, getting more regional insights, but as the adoption on farm level increases, you can also bring that insights down to a farm level and assist the growers to produce the best crop they can.
Thank you very much. Cedric Sim.
Simplicity and accuracy. The farmers, like you said, are very busy. Also the crop advisors. Whenever we can bring them an insight on time, correct to them, they know what to do with it. They don't need the whole multispectral, everyday centimeter resolution. They're not going to look at it. They don't have time to look at it. But if we detect a bio risk there, just send that small push, there's a problem in this part of the field, they know what to do with it. It's not about replacing them. It's about empowering them. And time is everything.
I suppose I'd have to have a shout out for agricultural journalists, all that, bringing that information, that sort of. I like to sometimes think I'm a sort of like a Google miner. There's a great seam of knowledge in Google and whatever, and you're extracting in that and interpreting it for people. And that's what we like to do with World Potato Markets, and other agricultural journalists of translating that information. But that's only valuable if that information is coming back, and that sort of interaction with farmers is very, very important.
Thank you. I want to expand some of the technologies a bit. Can I get you guys to, at the back, to just show me the Azena app store that we spoke about yesterday? That's that app store where you simply download an app on the camera and it automatically reconfigures the function of a camera. And there's like 500 apps up there, so you can download an app to say identify people, download an app to recognize number plates, download an app to see what's the water level, download an app to recognize a disease, download an app to look at the potatoes and the skin quality, download an app to look at the size of the different potatoes. Now, if you would say these are the opportunities available, and think beyond just the cultivation of potatoes, but Sim and Peter is talking about the digital tools that can be utilized. What other type of features do you think can the farmer look at in terms of optimizing the operations on the farm using these type of technologies? So I'm going to ask you to stretch your imagination a bit and put yourself in the shoes of a farmer to say, if we have connectivity on the farm, which will be there very soon, how can we use these technologies to increase our operations on the farm? Be it security, be it tracking of goods, be it the dispatching of goods. the ability to find out which workers have pitched up on time and how to pay them, incorporating our systems. How can these type of technologies assist the farmer to become more productive? What would you say? And you can jump in as well, Bruce and Cedric, if you want to. Come on.
Yeah, there's so many apps, and that's one of the issues of adoption. Is you must close an app and go into another one. So for me, number one is all these different solutions, having it integrated in a single application. And
but which of those features do you think would be the best beneficial for farmers? What do you think?
At this moment, I would say for you, with your scouting, just having a georeference record, if you see something of issue, but you can also record like the good crop condition, and throughout season you can go back and say, this is what I saw. It's just giving you a record georeference on which you can
so
go
more
back.
record keeping rather than operational efficiency.
Yeah, part of the record keeping, you also get like if there's an issue, taking a picture of that and getting an identification of that. So if we say take a picture of a weed, getting this is the identification of the weed, and this is the control methods you can do to control this weed, or if it a pest is or disease. So seeing something, taking a picture, and not just getting a lot of information, but getting the solution, so that you can make a decision on that point and address that issue.
And you say your app was the answer to that?
It's part of the answer, yeah.
Thank you. That's good enough for me. Sim.
I think like everyone in this room have multiple apps for all kinds of things, even for just for maps.
So I'm talking about the camera apps, those wonderful things on these smart cameras. What do you think?
I think that if we let the technology community work in these open app environments, they will be doing much more rapid and interesting things than trying to put everything in one place. We do have that one place as well, but also we use multiple apps for different things that'll help us. The second thing, I would love to see more of a Waze of agriculture. We talked about ourselves, each farmer, each crop agronomist, in each place. In Waze, one of the main features is we're all sharing. We see all the cars. That's what's generating an insight for everyone else. Imagine we have a Waze of the entire South Africa. So I know farmers are very protective on what's happening on their perfect field. But if it was agnostic, we don't know whose farm it is. We just know where it is. And we can alert everyone, like we alert in traffic. How can we generate that kind of a social platform that all of us, all the players, from the Syngentas to the John Deere, to the last farmer, the last person working with the smartphone in the field, just imagine the weather he's collecting. So we have weather stations, but a person with a phone is probably collecting data on weather like in a specific place. So I'd love to see that socialization of the data. Then we can analyze it, yes, but like a Waze of agriculture.
I think for me it's about linking my bit is about the market, so it's linking in with those markets. So it's good to see, that the Hello Choice linking in with that market, and also with potato South Africa. Willie's showing me your daily update of potato prices, and I think expanding that to potato quality and where's the market for that. In some ways, I think that's already world leading. I don't know of any other organisation that gives us so much detail every day. Most organisations would have a weekly price, indicative weekly price for potatoes, but actually you've got that sort of daily price and in different markets around the country. So that's really valuable sort of information. So yeah, anything that's linked back into the market has to be a good. I don't know if you can do that with cameras, but the apps are certainly the way forward with that.
Yeah, I think there's an angle here we need to come back to, and it's back to the farmer. Do we really understand all the farmers' pain points? There are so many and multiple challenges, if you like, in producing a crop. And it's not only the large-scale farmers here. I'm sure there's many farmers here representing smallholder communities as well. Their pain points might be quite different. It might be access to finance and other things. How can apps help those farmers access credit, acquire inputs, have products delivered on time when they need them? When I look at our global logistics chain, I'm absolutely mesmerized how we move millions of tons of products around the world in a just-on-time process to meet the needs of every market. If we can do it on a global scale as a multinational company, anything we can do to bring efficiencies to farmers. I think we need to understand more from the farmer, what are the pain points we're missing at the moment, which would really add value to your business and efficiencies. And the only guys can tell us that, and girls, is the audience probably sitting here.
And I think there's a wonderful opportunity. If there's a common denominator around all the farmers, Potato South Africa can play a significant role in opening up this portal and that ability to influence the decision making, give examples and support, and tracks and things as well. So, sometimes even a communal where it's emergent property, and that would be a wonderful opportunity to unlock as well. So maybe that's an opportunity to look at in the future in order to unlock those common lessons. Let's go and see. We're nearly at the end of our journey. Here's a couple of questions. Thank you so much. Oh, there's a question at the back. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much to all the presenters for the wonderful and quite insightful presentation. The information shared was quite a lot, and thank you very much for that. There was also a presentation from Peter, the program director. I believe we are also allowed to ask you a question.
Well, if you buy me a cappuccino over tea time, of course you may.
Yes, just a quick one, please. You, in your presentation, referred to something that caught my eye around consumption peaking, around 2035 or so. If you can elaborate a bit around that, especially on the kind of implications that would have in terms of how we produce food as well as market it at that point in time. If you can elaborate a bit on that, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it might have been a wrong choice of words on my side when I talk about consumption-based economy. It's more not in terms of the consumption of potatoes, but more around the individuals that are in a world of easy credit are consuming before they actually have the money to consume. So that was actually more the approach of with this huge debt level that the entire world is on, where the access of credit, 30, 40 odd years ago, if you wanted access to credit, you had to go to the bank, go through a whole process to get access to it. Nowadays, with a credit card and a variety of other things, you get access to credit and you can spend money before you actually earn it. This, unfortunately, has a huge debt implication on the world, and with our higher interest rates that is now applicable around the world, everyone is putting up high interest rates, and in South Africa specifically, the problem is there's inflation in America, which puts the price up in America. But then, the moment that the American government are trying to protect the dollar, they're putting the interest rate up there as well. This means money is leaving South Africa, and it forces the South African Reserve Bank, which will happen in the next week or so, to also increase its interest rates in order to stabilize the purchasing power of the rand. Now, this has an impact on the affordability of people to buy goods because of this outsourced or exported inflation coming from America. There's huge questions being asked. Is the dollar still, should it still be the dominant world currency? Because what the Americans are doing to protect their dollar now has a huge impact on the affordability of food in South Africa. And that has an impact on the consumption of goods. So that's why it also not only puts huge pressure on the producers, but also on the consumers in terms of potatoes. And this means that the technologies that these individuals and gentlemen have spoken about, how critical it is that we implement this, because this journey is not going to stop anytime soon. More expensive input costs, consumers can't afford the higher prices. The only option we have left is to use technology to increase our yield and hopefully stabilize the price, at least on potatoes. And what Sim and the guys have said, all the other crops, our ability to influence its price, it's not there because the yield increase isn't possible. But in the next 5 to 10 years, we believe that the yield increase in potatoes will be there. And that means that at least for potatoes, we can create a more sustainable food source, as it might be more affordable, might be more affordable in the future. So I think in terms to link the two together, consumption-based economy, as well as consumption of potatoes, The answer is literally there. We need to adopt the technology to ensure a larger yield. Larger yield with the same input cost means a more affordable potato at the end. And I hope that all of the interested parties in the environment hear the message. So from the regulator to the producers to the supporting staff to Potato South Africa, let's all work together as a team, because then we can enhance the ability. So that's literally the real message. We can create far cheaper potatoes, but then everyone must bring their part to the journey. I hope that makes sense. Thank you. Final comments, final questions. There's one at the back. Looks like the crowd is waking up. Unfortunately at the end, because we're going to be calling an end soon. But let's take 2 or 3 more questions before we wrap up.
Good afternoon. My name is Ndina from Department of Agriculture, marketing, responsible for vegetable value chains. The presentations about the technology was very much exciting, and I think everybody is excited about the new technology. But I'm just wondering, the person that we are intending this technology to assist, how are they keen to adopt this technology, or they are intending to stay with their traditional method of farming? Thank you.
So, question, what do you think is the adoption of technology, and what's the impact this has on the reduction on potato prices? What do you think? Any comments, any examples of this around the world?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair question. If I look at developing markets, the only way you can bring about change is through education. Smallholder markets around the whole of Africa, those smallholders have so many dollars in the pocket to spend, and they see value in a different way. And unless you can, through field demonstrations, show the grower the benefit of what your products are bringing on their crop, there is no chance of adopting that technology. So I think the lady's question is perfectly fair, and I think the same goes for commercial farmers. I know in the UK we had the parish leaders, and whenever we had a field day, they'd be swamped by all the other growers in the area, the best growers, because everyone wants to learn from what the best producer's doing. And it's no different, I'm sure, in South Africa, that commercial farmers want to adopt the best practices which are cost effective and are going to bring better returns for themselves and their families. So it's show and tell, it's field demos, and it's talking through our agents or directly to farmers. You have to have that interface and dialogue so that people understand your technology and what it's going to bring for their farms.
Yeah, my view is that technology enables everybody to get same, how can you say, it levels the playing field. So the advancements we're making for big commercial farmers, the small farmers or emerging farmers will also have access to the same solutions. And because maybe the areas are a bit smaller, you'll need to get the technology to them, you'll need enablers throughout the system, like extension officers, or somebody just taking lead in a group of farmers to assist them adopting that technology and implementing that on the farm. As we say, with the taking a photo and the identification of the pest, if you've been farming a very long time with a crop, you'll immediately know what the pests are. You don't need that app you don't need that app, but emerging farmer, it might be, you don't know, is it early blight, is it late blight, it looks the same. And having an app just to correctly identify that pest on that farm allows that person also to apply the correct products and save, how can you say, obtain his optimal yield at the end of the day. So technology is totally an enabler, but and as I said, there's a certain channel to go through to get access to every farmer.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that, if we don't do anything and continue with our old ways, we're going to be looking at a higher input cost, higher prices, the consumers are going to pay more, and we might fall into Malthus's trap. You remember Malthus? Yes, that's a big problem. But what I'm hearing you saying is that by embracing technology, we can make the production of potatoes far more efficient, and therefore give a benefit to the consumer of having a more affordable food source in the future. Is that what I'm hearing?
To sum it up, I think there's two ways, two things that makes production costly. The one is not doing the application correctly. You apply the product, but it doesn't reach the target. It's not able to do its work. The conditions were not perfect to apply that, or applying the wrong product to target that pest, and you do need to do another application later on, but you've also in the process lost yield potential.
Thank you so very much. We are nearing the end of our panel discussion. I'm going to ask each of the panel members to do just a quick 1-minute wrap up, your core idea that you would like to remain with the audience. What is the key message you want to convey? They always say, towards the end, you need to come up with a very strong key elevator pitch. Peter, I'm going to start with you and then go down the line. What is the key message that you want to convey to the audience after this panel discussion?
For me, I come from a farm. I was always passionate about technology, and there's just so much huge benefit by just looking at the more granular level at your farm, and how can you say, address your farm more precisely. With data, you've got the ability to measure and monitor your progress. So I see a lot of, I would just say it's scary, all the information there, but there's a lot of people and support to assist with adopting the technology. And a lot of the technologies, you've got the support that the other person is going to manage all that information overload. So it's just be open for new technology and get the right persons to assist you with adopting that technology.
Wonderful idea. Be open to new technology and ask the right people, and you know who to ask. That's literally what this Congress is about. Thank you so much. Bruce, over to you.
Yeah, simply for me, just look how sustainable your current rotational practice is, and try pick out the best of what you've heard over the last 2 days and what works for your farm. That's more important than anything else. It has to work for you. But look at the sustainability of your farming system and adapt accordingly. And you'll be around for the next 30, 40, 50 years, no problem.
So choose wisely and focus on sustainability. Thank you very much. Cedric.
Well, I think you're in the sweet potato spot. Not sweet potatoes, but the potato sweet pot spot, if you like. I think you've got some of the best growers in the world. You've got fantastic climate to be growing it. You've got a growing population, growing appetite, at a time when there's pressure in other parts of the world as well. So, learning yesterday, you've got fantastic seed and the way you do things, and with that technology as well, but also that sort of ingrained knowledge you have of the soil and the way to farm, as well as that technology. I think, you're in that sweet potato spot.
I can't. That's a good summary on its own. So, thank you so much. I'm not even going to try and summarize that because it's a summary in its own right. But it seems like there are potato farmers who will far worse off. And thank you for that kind message. Sim, you've got the last word.
I think we all understand that we're in the middle of a tremendous revolution, bigger and larger than the Industrial Revolution, than any revolution that we've ever had. It is going to change everything around us. It is changing everything around us. But it's also a great opportunity, like we said, for potato growers. And we also need the potato growers to double and triple their capacity. And I know it's scary, the technology, but it's here to empower. And it's here to capture those best practices of every farmer and everyone in this game, and to bring that to every potato and to every hectare, to every farmer, to help them achieve this tremendous goal of tripling potato production in South Africa in the next 20 years.
Very, very important message. We're at the cusp of fundamental change, but the technology is there and the answers are there in order to benefit from it and increase your yield. Thank you very, very much for all of you. A hearty applause.